Hello again. Are we still doing all right? Round of applause. We still great? Okay. How about one more round of applause for the previous panelists? That's like as two parents that are elderly who are terrified of getting scammed. Super great panel, right? Like, let's help our people. I'm going to make a couple of announcements before I get into my next segment, but the first is the raffle is still available. I know it originally said the cutoff was 3 p.m. It's going to be 5 p.m., so you've got until 5 o'clock to get your tickets in. Again, the grand prize, a really great SANS course up to $10,000. Everybody could use that. If you need a little extra juice, Debbie is always looking for new sponsors. So if you're not already a sponsor of the Guild, I'm going to give you an opportunity. Piper Companies is going to buy a bunch of raffle tickets. If one of our raffle tickets hits and you're a new sponsor of the Guild, I will give you the SANS course to give to one of your employees. So you've got an extra chance to win. If you haven't purchased raffle tickets, get in there, become a sponsor of the Guild, and we'll get you a great course for one of your employees, right? So get those in as soon as you can. But now I'm going to give you the next group of RISE mentors and proteges. So our next mentor is James Chapman. He is the Chief Technology Officer of Products with Clarity Innovations. He leads a team of engineers and data scientists in developing industry-leading geospatial analytics, cyber intelligence platforms, and computer network operations, doing exploitation and defensive capabilities. And prior to Clarity, he held an executive role overseeing critical missions within the NSA. He's a really smart guy, is basically what all of that just said. His protege is actually Sarah Blake, who I've had the privilege to chat with and is fantastic. She's a federal deployment manager at Palo Alto Networks. She also supports the federal government through the Cortex Expanse program. She safeguards the US against surface attacks. She is a former naval officer and a helicopter pilot. And she brings over a decade of leadership experience across defense operations. That's a pretty cool background, right? Like helicopter pilot? Seriously? And she's got some cool new stuff that she's working on as well within Palo Alto, so I hope she'll talk about that a little bit. But let's give a warm round of applause for James and Sarah.
Yeah, thanks for the warm introduction, Matt. That was really kind. One of the things that I love most about the Cyber Guild and about the RISE mentorship program is just the diverse background, both life experience, career experience, that the mentors and the proteges all bring to the program. And so with that, I'd really like to ask Sarah, how did you first get involved in the RISE mentorship program?
Yeah, so actually my first Cyber Guild experience was at last year's UIC 2024 conference. I was in the middle of finishing up my degree in cyber and preparing to transition out of the military, and I saw the conference advertised on LinkedIn. I showed up not knowing a single person in the industry outside of my professors at school, and I left with so many amazing connections just because of what a great event and what a great organization the Cyber Guild is. And so I heard about the RISE program and knew it was just absolute perfect timing for me, and it turned out to be, one of the best things I've ever decided to do.
Awesome.
How did you get involved, James?
As Matt mentioned, I had a really fulfilling career at NSA, and part of the culture there is formal mentorship. They run a formal mentoring program. When I left NSA for commercial, I felt like that was something that I was missing out on, and I actually started seeing posts from this new organization I'd never heard of before called the Cyber Guild. A lot of heavy-hitting folks that I knew from my time at NSA, like Teresa Shea, were participating and posting, so I went to the website, read about it, and I said, hey, this is a great organization. The mission is exactly what I'm looking for, but I didn't know how to get in touch. And so actually I saw that one of the board members on our company, someone named Tiffany Gates, was also a participant in Cyber Guild, so I reached out to her and said, hey, Tiffany, I really want to get involved. She connected me to the incredible, everyone here knows, amazing Debbie Salas. And then that was kind of, Debbie just ran with it. And she's like, here, James, I've got all these things you can do. Will you be a mentor? Will you do this? And it's like, of course, Debbie, this is incredible. So that's really how I got involved. I know we've had a lot of great leaders speaking on stage today, and there's been a recurrent theme of how important mentorship is. One of the things that I would like to ask about your experience in the RISE program is why are mentors important to you? And has there been any standout mentor that you've met throughout your participation in RISE?
Yeah, I really credit the amazing mentors I've been lucky to have in my corner for the last decade now. Credit them for where I've gotten so far in my career. And the RISE program has no shortage of incredible volunteers and mentors to work with us throughout the year. And one of them, my first mentor in the program was Anna Wheeler, and she was actually one of the very first people I ever connected with last year at UWIC. And I think it was a bit of fate. She actually was one of the first female Black Hawk crew chiefs in the Army, and I flew Seahawks. So we had this sort of instant connection last year, and then having her as my mentor, going through earlier in the year the process of the career change and applying for jobs. She was always there, certainly for the frantic last-minute calls before an interview was coming up the next day, but more importantly, just there to be, my champion throughout what is, can be a really stressful time and a time where you really doubt if you have what it takes to succeed in this industry. So she is just the perfect example of the quality of mentors that this program provides.
Awesome. And then you also mentioned that you transition out of the military. I know a lot of the proteges and participants that get involved in RISE, they're either early career, just breaking into cyber, or they're mid-career professionals looking to change into a different industry. Sometimes federal employees, military transitioning out, trying to find that first commercial role. What was that transition like for you?
Yeah, I think there's definitely people in the audience here today who are making a similar transition. So I just want to say that, I see you, and I can empathize with the challenges that really come with trying to break into this industry and leave a job that you already know how to do and have a career in. And for me, the challenging part was really having to build the credibility from scratch in a brand new space where I just spent a decade building credibility in another arena. And so that's really where the RISE program came in as well, because the mentors were able to help me reshape and look at how my experiences from the military could translate into cyber. I might not have ever run an incident response, but I could land a helicopter in an emergency. So while not technically the same, there's a lot of overlap there with those skills. So skills translation was a huge thing for me. And I know, James, you had your own successful career at the NSA and now find yourself in the private sector. So what's that been like for you?
It's been a little bit of a culture shock, if I'm honest. Working in the government, we have our own terminology and acronyms we use. I'm sure everyone knows the government and the military loves acronyms. It doesn't exist if you don't have an acronym or a fancy cover term for it. And then likewise, the cybersecurity industry tends to mirror a lot of that, but it's completely different terms, completely different acronyms. There's some convergence. So honestly, when I first went to commercial, I went to work for a commercial cybersecurity company called Huntress, and it was a bit of a culture shock because people were saying terms like, I'll give you an example. My boss at the time said, you need to look to hire an SRE for our team. You need an SRE. And I said, why do we need a software reverse engineer? We're not doing, that was what SRE means at NSA. And he's like, no, site reliability engineer. So there's just a little difference, a little adjusting. But one of the things that you said that I think is very important is that RISE isn't just for early career professionals. A lot of folks that come into RISE and are seeking mentors are maybe even a mid to late career. They're just changing into a different industry. But a lot of those skills, a lot of that understanding can translate into cyber. So one of the things that having participated in this program and knowing that we have both mid-career professionals that are looking to change into cyber, or maybe even upcoming college grads that are looking to get that first role, what personal advice would you give to the audience today for transitioning into cybersecurity?
Yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice is that you have to find this unique balance between being humble and also being confident. So there's no way around accepting that you're going to have to put in the hard work to learn those new technical skills that you're going to need to have for the roles you're applying for. I wish it was easier, but it's going to be a lot of late nights after you come home from a full day at work to study or to learn. But don't forget that you're bringing with you all of your experiences from your past career, and you have so much value already. And even just by the fact that you've decided to pick up and do something new, that shows a lot of courage and a lot of drive and strength that I think that's going to set you apart from other candidates out there. So don't forget what you already bring to the table. And I know, James, you've done a lot of work with your mentees this year on that same thing. And so do you have any good advice on that?
Yeah, I think if I had to give two pieces of advice to anyone, some of it's life advice, just general life advice, but also cybersecurity slanted. The first thing that I would say in regards to cybersecurity is be intentional and be specific about what it is that you tell people you do. Oftentimes I'll meet people and say, hey, what industry do you work in? What are you doing? They're like, I'm in cybersecurity. And I'm like, okay, what do you actually do? Are you a digital forensics professional, or do you do incident response? Do you do threat ops? Do you do reverse engineering, vulnerability analysis, policy, compliance, zero trust? Like, cybersecurity is a huge field, and I feel like we're doing ourselves a disservice at times in just saying, I do cybersecurity. Look at the vastness of cybersecurity and identify what your passion is and what you want to do, and then be very intentional about telling people that that's what you do. And then the second thing, which is just a bit of life advice that I constantly have to remind myself, I married an amazing woman, and she, as just all of my success is due to her. And I'm an anxious person, so she's always telling me to worry less. And one of the things that she said recently in the past couple months that stuck out to me was, anxiety about the future is a form of self-doubt that your future self can't handle a problem. So you need to look at the challenges you face. Like, for example, you were a pilot, a Seahawk pilot. Like, look at all of the challenges and things that you've dealt with in your career and know that your future self can handle any challenge that's thrown your way.
That's great advice.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.